and it's gonna not be good. It was so cool. I had such a cool college experience, guys. It all kind of came crashing down. Hello. Oh, by the way, this is what my hair looks like after a week. I gotta wash it tomorrow. Looks good. Anyways, hi, my name's Tyra, you know, your girl, your favorite weird cousin. I'm thinking of adding like an intro. I don't know, you guys let me know, because usually I just do hair videos. That's what you guys seem to like. That's what you guys come for. But I had someone comment saying that they're interested in my story about why I went to 3 different colleges. Because yes, I went to 3 different colleges. And I graduated in 4 years. We don't know how she did it, but we did it. Anyways, let's get into it. I graduated from high school in 2016, and then I went straight off into college. So the first university I went to a 4-year university and it was a private Christian university in Arkansas called Harding University. I don't know why I decided, okay, let me preface this for you guys. I wanted to go to this school because I really liked their program. I was getting my degree in electronic media production, which is like a lot of kind of like behind the scenes kind of stuff, because I wanted to be in production. And I wanted to, but I didn't want to I wanted to learn how to like edit, and I wanted to learn how to do sound stuff and work on live sets. And I ended up getting to work on a live set my freshman year, which was a very stressful environment for me, and I did not like it. And then anyways, I'm going too far. Okay, anyways, sorry. But okay, so my freshman year, I go to Harding University. First semester, great, cool as a cucumber. We had to take a everyday Bible study class, which I was like, fine, whatever. Like, I mean, I've been going to church since I was like, I don't know, 6. So I was like, whatever, I guess it's just like Bible study every day, whatever. It's fine. I'm not like super religious. I'm, you know, a regular person. So I was like, that's something to adjust to. And also every day I had to go to what was it called? It was like almost like service, like church service, but like they would have like announcements, and like it was like half of the population of the university, and this was like everyone from upperclassmen to lowerclassmen, probably some master students. Did they have master programs there? I think it did. I think some master students as well. And so the chancellor would be there, and the like vice chancellor, and they would like, you know, talk about things, and then they would give us like a short little lesson. We would sing some hymns, and then we would be done. It would be like about a 30-minute service. And so that was every day, and you got to skip, have 15 unexcused absences for that. So of course, me being me, proactive thinking, I would always save my 15 days. Y'all don't roast me. It's 10 o'clock at night and I'm about to go to sleep. Anyways, I edit in the dark. This is how I edit on the floor. So I forgot to mention, also with living on campus at Harding, every night the RAs would come and walk through everyone's rooms and see if they were there or if any funny business was happening. No guys were allowed in the girls' dorms and no girls were allowed in the guys' dorms. I think they had conversion therapy. Yeah, very problematic. Yeah, also, yeah, I had to sign a slip every time I left campus, and I was gonna be, leaving campus overnight and stuff, and if I didn't, like, do my little form, they would call my parents. Guys, I've never had a curfew in my life. My parents have always trusted me, and so, like, being having a curfew at 10 o'clock every day, except for on the weekends I would have a curfew at 12. Hello? What? Literally, we were all grown, 18 and up. Some of us were like 20 somethings. Why were they giving us a curfew? That's ridiculous. Anyways, just wanted to add to how constricting it was. It was a big yikes. I really wanted to be prepared for all my classes because I was paying for my classes. I only had so much of an academic scholarship. I'm horrible at standardized tests, so my ACT score, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, the highest I got was a 21, and I had to work for that 21. I'm really bad at standardized tests. I can, if you put me on a timer, I'm gonna freak out and it's gonna not be good. I'm a slow reader, and my comprehension skills with reading, it would always ruin my score because I'd always do well in the science and the math. But when it came to the reading and grammar, like, I did okay on the grammar, but when it came to the reading, it would always bring my score down because I would pass the section, but it would just bring my score down so much. So I never really excelled at standardized testing, and I think that's a really big problem with a lot of kids going into college, or even like non-traditional students trying to get into college and not having the funds, because depending on your education background, what kind of school you went to, and if you're neurodivergent or not, and not everyone has the ability to go to a psychiatrist and find out if they are or not, or aren't, if they are or are not neurodivergent. Like, you could be dyslexic, you could have ADHD, you could have all these different, like, maybe like learning disabilities, and you wouldn't know it, or you wouldn't be able to have the resources to get those diagnoses, to get the extra help for your like ACT, SATs. So, but that was something that I struggled with personally, and I was always like really insecure about it. But like now in hindsight, I was like, that's a system problem, not a me problem. And yes, I did have to work extra hard to try and get funding, and I'm gonna speak about that later and how I ended up getting more funding for my education. But it was really hard at first, and I have student loans. I do, and I've paid quite a bit, but not enough. I've only been graduated from school it hasn't been quite a year yet, so obviously I have a lot of time and stuff like that. Anyways, I went on a tangent again. I'm so sorry, y'all. Okay, but basically my first semester was smooth. I really enjoyed all my classes. All my professors were really nice, and I really felt appreciated. I felt heard, and I liked how small the classes were, so I got to talk to all my professors individually. They had plenty of time for me to talk and everything. But mind you, 2016 was an election year, and 2016, you gotta remember who was running. It was Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So there's a lot of like animosity, weird vibes, and you know, I was at a Christian, predominantly white, very small amount of people of color, of any color, honestly. There were hardly any Asian people, there were hardly any Black people, there were hardly any Latinx people, and I don't think there was any indigenous folks. So I don't know, but that was a red flag, but we're gonna go for it. But I honestly enjoyed my first semester. I really liked my suite mates, because I lived in the nicest dorm for freshmen. There's a really bad one that was like kind of run down, and there was a really nice one, and they both cost the same. And I ended up getting to room with my suite mates that I selected, and a roommate that I selected, but that didn't end up working with the roommate, and she ended up moving out because we had different levels of cleanliness. I'm a little bit of a neat freak sometimes, and there's different odors, and it just was not neat, and we were not getting on well at all. And our personalities just did not mesh well. If you're interested in a story time about my experience with my roommate, let me know. That was kind of traumatic. Some icky stuff happened. But yeah, so moving on to the second semester, things started to be kind of off. I was not enjoying myself. A lot of people that I had classes with, I didn't have classes with them anymore, so I had to make new friends, of course, again. And it wasn't too bad making friends. Oh, I just felt like I was like a black sheep, you know, because I literally was I was like the token black. And so my little friend group, I met from my Bible study class. We all got on really well, and I hung out with them pretty religiously outside of my suite mates that I hung out with them like every day. But at one point, I remember we had a group chat and we were talking in the group chat, and someone sent in a picture of all of us looking down. You know, whenever you look down on a photo and you're all like, your heads are in a circle looking down. We took that picture, and obviously it's gonna be dark cast because there's hardly any light coming in, so I'm the darkest person, so you're not going to see me as well as everyone else because everyone else is white. And so someone sent that picture in the group chat, and someone said, "Oh, where's Tyra?" like dark skin joke. And so I was like, that's not funny. Or I said something like, that's not, I don't think that's funny, or something like that. And then someone's like, haha, I get it because it's a black people joke or whatever. And then I like did like little like middle finger emoji, and I did like the brown one, but I didn't do like the darkest skin one. I do like the second to darkest skin one because, you know, I feel like it's literally my shade. But yeah, a person replying, they're like, actually, did you mean this? And then they put in the darkest shade middle finger in the group chat, and I was like, what? I was like, this is really racist. And then I like left the group chat. And so that was my first like really uncomfortable like situation, and I was like really mad. And like all the other people that were in the group chat that didn't like, because there's only 2 girls that were being mean to me, like being actually racist. So everyone else was like, yeah, no, that wasn't cool. And they're like, I don't understand that. And they kind of like stopped hanging out with them a little bit, or like were a little bit standoffish with them, except for like one girl that I hung out with the most, and she was like, oh, well, she didn't mean it. I was like, no, that made me feel really uncomfortable, and like honestly that made me feel really isolated and alienated. So the girl that kind of started it, she came into the class because I had another class with her after that whole thing like literally just happened, and she came in and she's like, I'm so sorry, Tyra, and like she's like tearing up, and I'm like, first off, why are you crying? You're the one that came for me and was being racist towards me and hurt my feelings, so get those crocodile tears out of here, because I'm not about to feel bad for you, especially when you made me feel uncomfortable. You know, that's not fair. We're not doing that. So I was just like, I didn't like that. Don't talk to me, basically. I was like, that was racist. And like, I tried to sit away from her. And like, we had assigned seats, but the teacher could tell that I was not feeling her. So he didn't even say anything. I just sat away from her, and she like was like all puffy eyed and stuff. And I was like, whatever. And I just, you know, went to my next class, and I talked to some other people about it later, and they're like, yeah, no, we didn't like that. And they stopped talking to them. And I don't really talk to them anymore, because like we probably don't really have that much in common. You know, freshman year you make friends, but like you make friends because you're trying to you just want to know people, you know, but like later on you don't hang out with them because you really don't have anything in common with them. It was kind of that ordeal. So later on I just felt more and more isolated, and those 2 girls kind of made me feel really odd and insecure about like my blackness and stuff like that. And I started to really see like the things going on around campus, and I had classes where like I had a history class, and you know, history classes can already be kind of dodgy with a lot of white people. So I'm just being honest, my personal experience growing up in a PWI, high school, like honestly my whole education career was predominantly white institutions. But yeah, that was kind of like the cherry on top. I felt really, really uncomfortable, and I felt really isolated by all my friends. Well, were my friends at the time. The only people I hung out with were my suite mates. And then I got a new roommate, and she was cool, but like we didn't really hang out like that. And then like the election happened, and I felt really uncomfortable and really unsafe. And there were like people like, you know, Trump supporters, like fanatics, and like I enjoyed my classes, believe that, but like in like my history class and stuff like that, like specifically my history class, the only person that like really had my back was my professor, and that was it. Like my suite mates were in the class, but like they didn't like stick up for me, or they never said anything. I was like one of the only people that would ever say anything, and I think I was the only black person in the class. And my professor, he actually gave me an A, even though I definitely had a smooth 87, but he gave me an A for the whole class. But I would always like open like dialogue about race and like understanding like history is only the story of the victor, and obviously they're gonna rewrite history to make them seem gracious and noble, when usually it's never so. The victims are the ones that were the good ones in most cases. But yeah, that class was really interesting, and I was like, for that class I was like, yeah, no, I'm definitely leaving. But I really liked my advisor. I had like with my advisor, I had like this Beatles class, and we literally just learned about like music and stuff and history through media and the Beatles. And I learned a lot, not just like about the Beatles, like obviously I learned a lot about the Beatles, but I learned a lot about like the history of music, and learning that like before, well, basically black people are the black people created music in the States for sure. And because, you know, before there was, well, first there was like, you know, gospel, then the blues, like the secular music, and like R&B and like neo soul, and, you know, rock and roll, and that's literally all black stuff. Even country music, that was originally black people music. I think the only thing like white people really made was like probably like bluegrass. But yeah, that was a really interesting class, and the teacher was very like open-minded, and I really enjoyed having conversations with him like before and after classes. I was like a dork a little bit, like about learning these different things. Also, during the election, I was actually broadcasting the election live in our news station, and that was traumatic, very much so traumatic. I felt really uncomfortable. We were in the break room, and this girl came up and she's like, did everyone voted for Trump, right? And then like, I think there was like maybe 2 people that were like, why would you even say that? Like, or like, and I said no. I was like, no. And she like kind of like looked and was like, oh. I was like, girl, I'm black. And 2, why would you assume everyone voted for Trump? I know we're in Arkansas, but don't be dense. Anyways, but after that, I ended up applying for the Disney College program. And right before I left, I found, well, like this, right before we were about to enter into summer break, I found out that I got accepted into the program. And so I was like, yes, this is my way out, because I had not applied for any colleges after I already kind of like made the mental note and like told my parents like, yeah, I'm leaving. It kind of was a perfect segue into leaving Harding and like having something to kind of fall onto. And so I was doing the Disney College program, and my first part of my program, which was 2017 to beginning of 2018, that was when I was doing the Food and Wine. I was doing Food and Wine, and my original assignment was outside outdoor vending, and that was really hard. But I ended up being selected to do the Food and Wine Festival, and that was super fun. I met a lot of people that I still talk to today, and I still have the hat, and I have pictures of me at the festival. I got to see Boys to Men twice. That was amazing. They're amazing live. And I got to just like meet a lot of interesting people I met. And so it was like a really cool, like immersive kind of job, and I got to meet different people of different cultures and liking, likeness and stuff like that. So it was just really neat, and like being exposed to such a broad array of people. And I worked in the what's the word for it? It's like the the globe thing, like around the pond. You know, if you've ever been to Epcot, it's like the different countries around a pond. I worked around there, so like whenever I get off work, I would go off stage, change out of my costume because we had lockers and the costume room was right there, and then I'd come back and I would walk around and get some food and stuff like that, and I would get a discount. And like during like the holidays, you get like 40% off. I was like, yes! So food was cheap. And like I really loved my roommates. They were great. Most of my roommates. I like my roommate that I lived with, like we shared a bed, and then I love Dia and Hope. I still talk to them to this day, and I still have friends outside of like my roommates that I still talk to this day. Also, I didn't mention I was still taking classes while I was working at Disney. I was taking a few, you know, gen eds, general education classes that could easily transfer to whatever school I was going to apply for later on. But I took I think I took 4 classes in total, and I also took summer classes right before I left because I was taking classes at a local community college, like where literally down the highway from where my parents lived. So it was really easy, really affordable, and that's how I ended up, you know, graduating in 4 years, because I never really stopped going to school. I recommend if you don't like the first school that you go to a community college, take your gen eds, and really do your research on like what university you want to go to. If you're a person of color or have like different cultural backgrounds, I would definitely suggest going to a school that has a diverse background to like meet your needs, because I'm sorry, but PWIs really make you feel like the odd man out sometimes, and a lot of schools don't really put in the work to make you feel comfortable. So yeah, look and see what the populace looks like at your school that you are interested in going. Like they might have amazing programs, and my first school that I went to had an amazing program. The professors were awesome, but I did not like the people, and that broke this whole situation for me. And then so back to like working and taking classes at Disney, I would be able to take my exams on campus because I lived on campus at Disney. They had like apartments for us that they took like, you know, like $108 out of our paycheck every week, because we got paid every week. When we got paid $10 an hour. I think it went up, but maybe not. But we were paid $10 an hour, and we worked on average maybe like, I would say like 35 would be like the average for a college student working for Disney. But so like we'd be making about like 350, and then they would take about 100 out, depending on what apartment you lived in. If you lived in Commons, they took out the most because that one had the most add-ons. So like you had a washer and dryer in your unit, you had a balcony. It was really nice. I was living in Vista Way, which was the cheapest one, and I had 6 people in my apartment, so it was only $108. But it could be upwards of like, I think like 134, but I think, well, my second program, it went up a little bit more. So, but we'll talk about that. So I was taking classes, and I actually took a class at Disney because they do provide classes I took a corporate communication class, which I got a certificate for. I definitely suggest, if you are eligible, because you do have to be eligible to take those courses. It's based off of what your degree is, and mine was in communication, so obviously I qualified to be in the corporate communication course. But that was a really fun class. I learned a lot from that class, and it gave me a reason to not be working in the parks that day, because I had to go to that class, obviously. But yeah, I learned a lot from that class, and I made some interesting friends. A lot of my friends were from Barbados. They were interesting, to say the least. They're fun. If any of you don't know, half my family is from Jamaica, so I have some like Caribbean background, and like one of my uncles is from Barbados, so but yeah, I had a lot of fun. I used to go to the parks like all the time when I wasn't at work. Working for Disney was really strict. If you want to, I might do a story time on like working for Disney overall. I did a story time about like a traumatic experience at Disney World, working there, but I would like to do a story about like some of the positive things that really happened at Disney, and maybe like some backstage stuff that you don't really get to hear too much about. Moving forward, I ended up extending my program, and I got a different role. So this time instead of working for food and beverages, I was working at Animal Kingdom as an attraction operator, and I worked at Tough to Be a Bug, you know, the giant tree, like whenever you walk in and like you walk past like the little exhibit with all the animals, first thing you see is the massive tree. I worked in there, and there's a theater, and it's based off of the movie Bugs. Is it called Bugs or Ants? Ants. I think it's called Ants. I don't remember. It's from the 90s. I haven't seen it since like probably like 2004. But I learned a lot about public speaking. I literally had to speak into a mic with a spotlight on me right before the theater like opened, because it's kind of like an immersive 4D experience. For if you've ever been to the Tough to Be a Bug experience, it's really fun. But I was one of those people that was like, hello everybody, my name is Tyra, and you're welcome to the Tough to Be a Bug theater, blah blah blah. And so I would do my little spiel and stuff like that, and then I would also do my spiel for the queue. So if you ever heard the voices while you're walking in the long queue about what to expect and all the safety guidelines, I did that. And like I grabbed strollers. It was a lot of fun, and I made a lot of friends. But mind you, I was still taking classes while I was doing all this. So I was working full-time and taking classes part-time. And then after this whole fun experience at Disney ended, I took a summer off. I didn't take classes the summer prior, but I applied to 2 universities. I applied to CUNY in Manhattan, where I was gonna get my degree in, I think it was gonna be video production, and then I applied for a degree at UIC, University of Illinois at Chicago, where I got my degree in communication. I got accepted into both. I applied to them both barely before the deadline. 10 out of 10, do not recommend that. It was really a big hassle and stuff to kind of get all my paperwork and stuff like that. But it was smooth sailing after I ended up accepting going into UIC rather than CUNY, because I got more financial aid from UIC. I ended up getting a merit scholarship. I ended up going to UIC, and I took a summer off. I didn't take any courses, and then I really just relaxed, enjoyed myself, and then I was shipped off to Chicago. I drove up with my parents with all my bins in the trunk, and I was really excited. And that's where I got my degree in communication with my minor in moving image arts. And I really enjoyed myself. I stayed there for 2 years, so from 2018 to 2020, and I learned a lot. I made really good relationships with my professors. I ended up enrolling into honors college, where I had to do, you know, extra honors college stuff, and I had to do a capstone, which is basically a thesis, and I had a presentation, which I did a creative presentation, which I made a short film. If you're interested in seeing my short film, I'll link it in my Vimeo. Yeah, I'll link my Vimeo, but it's, you know, a 5-minute short. I took some film classes. I took a lot of communication classes, of course, because that's my degree. I learned a lot about writing. I got my first writing job on campus. I worked for the Office of Public and Government Affairs as a editorial aide, and that was a really neat job. I got to like go to events and stuff with like, you know, like pretty cool people like Derrick Rose, one of some football player. He plays for the Green Bay Packers. Not a Green Bay Packers fan, but I saw him, and then I got to write an article about this lady. She's like the vice president of like OWN, like Oprah's, one of Oprah's, you know, many incomes. But she was really cool. But I got to write about her and like get to sit in the VIP because I had a little press pass. It was really neat. And I got to write and go to like really cool events and stuff, and really just like be a journalist. And that's when I kind of like honed in on my writing skills, and I really started to enjoy writing more than I ever had prior. And I had a pretty cool editor, and like the HR, they were all really nice and stuff like that. And even my boss's boss, she was really cool. I need to email her and give her my new email, since, you know, my old university email is probably gonna be canceled soon. But really cool experience, made a lot of friends. I got a mentor. I need to talk to her. I haven't talked to her in a minute, but she's a cool Black woman with locks, family from Jamaica like me, and she graduated from Harvard. I was like, dang, I didn't know that until I saw her like little, you know, accomplishments in her little email signature. But she was a really cool lady. She made me like the interim president of the African American Cultural Center, and it was really neat. That was like my little haven, my little safe space that I kind of like helped them kind of come up with a lot of ideas. Like I came up with the ideas of like having open mics, and I got to meet a lot of like local talent in Chicago. We had like discussions on like films and stuff, and like we had like basically red table talks. It was so cool. We did a lot of really cool, neat ideas and stuff like that. I got to go to plays with them. I really enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun my junior and senior year. How I saved a lot of money in my senior year is I got a job working for campus housing, because a lot of the expenses was housing and like room and board. And so I became a peer mentor, which is basically like an RA, a resident assistant, but I did more academic stuff. So I would, you know, make sure all my residents, I had 110 residents, and I lived in the newest building at my university. It's called the ARC. And so ARC is short for Academic Residential Center, and so half of the building is classrooms, and I did have a classroom in there, which was really nice because I would just throw on my clothes, then go down the elevator and be right by my class. That was luxury. But it was a brand new building, very modern, really cool architecture kind of style. Maybe I'll show some clips of me while I was there, because I did record some places before I left, while my room was furnished and unfurnished, and what like all the areas looked like. But it was really nice. Free laundry. We had like study rooms and like little privacy rooms where you could like literally do your studying. It was great during exam week, and like we would have like just hangouts, and there was like every hall had 2 different lounge areas with TVs. My room had a living room area, a long hallway, a bedroom with a full-length mirror, full-length window that I got a view of the skyline. I was on the 6th floor. I had my own bathroom, which I had a tub sectional, a sink, cabinet space, 2 mirrors, a big mirror, and then a medicine cabinet mirror. and it was so nice, and I didn't pay anything. And I think that room was worth like, if I had to pay for it, it would be at least like $18,000 worth of a room, because that room was nice, guys. Yeah, that's where I stayed for the rest of that's what I stayed my last year. And I lived right across from the University Hall, where I worked on the 13th floor. And I would just literally just throw on clothes and run to the office and write my articles and stuff like that. It was so cool. I had such a cool experience my final 2 years, and I really enjoyed it. My junior year though, it was kind of hard because my first 2 weeks I had no friends. I had to start all over again. And the only way I made friends is by getting a job for campus housing, because before I was a peer mentor, I was a campus housing representative, so I just gave tours of the campus, and I answered calls if people called and had questions or like wanted to set up meetings and stuff. But that was a really cool job, and I actually got to stay on campus for the summer and take summer classes, because I took more summer classes, but I took them through UIC. And that ran me like $3,000 that I paid out of pocket. Ooh. But I took 2 courses, and that set me on track to graduate in 4 years. Well, that following year. But I got free housing because I was working over the summer for campus housing, and all I had to do was just jump on the bus, because the bus was paid for since I was taking a course. While you're enrolled, you get free transportation, so you could ride the bus, you can ride the train. The only thing that you have to pay for is like Metra, which is like, you know, going outside of the city. And I would like go visit my uncles and I would take the Metra. But a lot of times my uncle, he worked at City Hall, so I would literally just take the train, the blue line, and go to, you know, and stop right in City Hall, and I would just go up the elevators, and everyone's just all nice, and I'm like wearing like, you know, college kid stuff, and I go up the elevators, and then I text him like, hey, I'm here, and he opens up the door for me. Like, it was so cool. I had such a cool like college experience. And then we'd go ride the train to his house, and he'd be right off the track, and we would just walk to his house, or he would park. Actually, no, he would park his car, and then we'd drive there. But it was so nice. I miss doing that. It was really fun. I had such a luxurious senior and junior year. I made a lot of friends. Oh guys, my senior year I had a radio show. It was called The Bold Faced Truth, and basically it was like an opinion kind of broadcast, like podcast style thing, and we talked about current events and whatever like was going on with our lives personally, just like relatable stuff, college kid stuff. And it was really fun. It was an hour-long show. We had like, you know, promotional material, and it was promoted on the school's like radio, Instagram, and stuff like that. Like, it was actually like there was an app and you would listen to it and stuff. It was so cool. I had such a cool college experience, guys. Wow. 10 out of 10 would do that again. But yeah, I had a lot of fun, but it all kind of came crashing down whenever, you know, COVID happened and I couldn't go into the radio station. That friendship kind of died off dramatically. Yeah, you know, I couldn't go outside and stuff like that, so I kind of became a hermit. And yeah, I didn't get to do a lot of the things that I was doing before. And I didn't get to walk the stage. My school's actually doing a thing now where you can walk the stage physically, but I don't want to do that. It's past due. I'm over it. But hey man, I have my degree, I have my sanity, and I have my health. So, and I have student loans. I'm just kidding. That sucks. But yeah, it was really fun. I definitely recommend college. If you have the ability to go to college, I would say go to college. Have fun, but also go to class. I had a lot of residents that were just not going to class, and then they would be like confused whenever they were failing, and I was like, well, you gotta show up. So that's part of it, the education part. But yeah, I had a lot of fun, made a lot of friends, and yeah, learned a lot about myself, became like low-key an activist, and I really want to be an influence, and I think I did a really good job my senior year in being an influence to all my residents, and you know, helping them along their way academically and socially. Some of my residents, like, they actually follow me on Instagram and stuff, so that's kind of cool. I have some really cool programs. Like, I had a little dance program once, and it was really fun. We had like a little crowd, and I taught them some dance moves, because your girl can dance. So, but anyways, I've been rambling too long. I don't know if I want to like edit this or not. I'll edit it, yeah, because I probably said a lot and had awkward pauses, and I'm like said like a lot. So, got a degree in communication and still does not know how to communicate in a articulate way. Anyways, thank you guys for listening, for watching, for caring. Let me know if there's anything, like any of those like ideas that I propose for like other story times, because I love doing story times, because I love just like, you know, having a stream of consciousness and editing it later. But that was really fun and really refreshing. Kind of gave me a minute to like reflect on all the things I accomplished and had fun doing and stuff. The sun is disappearing, so that's my cue. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your... Come on now. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and that's saying a lot. Okay? All right, goodbye.